Well, welcome. And we're back with another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. I'm Sal Sammy, and Ryan Priest is with me.
Hello.
And today, in the podcast room, we have Bill Houze with commercial sales with Premier Energy. And Bill, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Well, can you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us kind of what you do with Premier Energy?
You bet. I've been with Premier 9 years as of this month. My job is liquid fuel cells. So I get out mostly with commercial, municipalities, schools, and work with our customers that way. I have been in sales for 30 years now. My folks were originally from this area. They moved to Texas, and that's where I was born. And 20 years ago, I moved back here and love this place.
So most kids move out, but your parents moved away.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
They moved out. Sorry.
That's awful. That's awful.
So right now, the time when we're doing this, we're in the fall of 2021, and it's mid-November. And Bill, there's a few things that customers that run diesel fuel need to be concerned about. And right now, can you tell us about winter fuel operability? And if you've got a diesel engine, you know what that means. And that means colder temperatures and diesel fuel that can gel in the lines. And that's a bad day. And you said we sell a lot to municipalities, and that means ambulances and everything else. So tell us a little bit about winter fuel operability.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with a little chemistry 101. It was my favorite class. I got to take it 3 semesters in a row. And
finish with a C.
I got the pity pass in the 3rd semester. But here's the situation with diesel. All diesel contains wax. And when diesel fuel is subjected to sub-zero temperatures, that wax will form crystals. And if the diesel is untreated, it'll be flat platelets that kind of clump together and will quickly clog up your fuel filter. So with Country Mark's cold flow additive, the same thing happens, but those platelets are broken down into little needle shapes, small needle shapes, that'll continue to flow through the fuel filter and at colder temperatures. So that's the importance of why Country Mark always adds that their cold flow additive.
And if you don't have that fixed before winter, I mean, it needs to be. You need to have that additive in there before
Right.
It gets cold.
And there you get into a situation, and thankfully we are blessed with some great drivers who love to take care of their customers and who are looking out for their best interests. So they will see where the customer is with their storage tanks and make sure we start getting them turned and all that fuel can get into their tanks and into their equipment before the first really cold hits. And that's a very important part of what we have to do. And the importance of it is just like you said, we got first responders out there. We got school buses with kids on it.
Yeah.
We can't have, an issue with gelling. So it's very important that we take these steps. Now, Country Mark is just head and shoulders above most in the field when it comes to winterization. They start refining their fuel by November 1st. They try to get to a 3-degree cloud point. And the cloud point is where crystals will start forming. So at 3 degrees is without any treatment is where it will start. With the cold flow additive, it'll get us to minus 12. Gives us another 15 degrees to go lower. So, and that every year by November 1st, Country Mark has refined it down to that point. And we get weekly updates, and we see where that cloud point is weekly. So we know for sure what it is we're telling our customers is what they're going to get.
That's pretty neat. I didn't realize that it started that early in the process, and that way, starting that early, you make sure that the fuel that's in the
Right.
supply chain, in the tanks, in the
Right.
equipment, and that sounds like a lot of that's with the driver. I mean,
Absolutely.
our drivers they have the knowledge of the customers that they work with to make sure that piece of equipment that may have been somewhere else, or that tank or something, to make sure they're coaching
Right.
the end user about how to get geared up for the winter.
And yeah, it sounds early, but we need every day of it that we can get to just get everybody, the number of accounts we have, to just get that all turned, and make sure everything's where it needs to be. The other point I wanted to make about how Country Mark does their winter blending is it's done by state-of-the-art equipment at the terminal. So it is blended in as the transport driver goes to pick up the load. You have some companies who will just hand their driver a jug and say, hey, pour this in when you get there. Ours is done, like I said, by computer, so that every gallon we know is winterized to that -12. So that's another tipping point of where Country Mark kind of sets itself apart.
So you can buy chocolate milk in a jug, or you can try to make it on your kitchen counter, but this is more critical than
Right.
mixing up chocolate
It's always
milk.
better when you buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a neat story. I didn't realize that, but that was the importance. I think we had talked to Matt Smorch from Country Mark on one of our other podcasts, and he had mentioned about doing it right there at the terminal and how important that is to get a good mixing, and not I think he called it splash.
Splash mix or
mix.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Smorch is just a great human being, and
We won't tell him. So.
well, kind of my boss. So I wanted to get that in there.
Duly noted. Duly noted. So, hey, so Country Mark is a brand that we're familiar with in the state of Indiana. Obviously, it's an important part of our Indiana business model as a cooperative. But for those who are familiar with, obviously we hear about Valvoline, and we have a big football stadium up the way with Lucas Oil on the side of it, and a lot of farm shops sitting around with Schaefer's barrels in them, and guys that are dead set on using Schaefer's oil. A lot of lubricant applications out there, a lot of different oils, a lot of different things that we can use. From vacuum oil all the way up to heavy duty 90 weights and diesel oil. Give us an idea of your catalog. What can you accommodate? I mean, people talk about Lucas Oil. I need them for this. I need them for this specialty application. And I would assume that Country Mark and Premier can cover all of those bases. So give us an idea of your catalog. What kind of gamut do you run with your products?
Yeah, that's a good point. Country Mark Advantage is our premium line, and we run the whole gamut, just like you said. We've got the diesel engine oils, the gas engine oils, wide variety of hydraulics, vacuum oils, greases, and you will find that Advantage lubricants will meet almost all the specs you're looking for. And that's a nice thing about how lubes are kind of classified. It's right there, and it tells you what we've passed and what we meet criteria to let you know that, yeah, we can meet your Schaefer hydraulic oil. We can meet your Shell Rotella 1540. We're there. So we have a wide variety. We covering C.D. Kinney, our operations manager, runs that for us, and we have bulk delivery. We can bring you 250 gallons at a time, or we can bring you a box of quarts, whatever your situation might be. But yeah, please. And I know a lot of times you get caught up in, oil is a lot like what car brand you like. You're either a Ford man or a Chevy man, and same thing. I'm a Rotella man or a Schaefer man. But what you'll find is there's opportunities to get the same quality, but at greater value. And I think that's what we bring, is a greater value with our deliveries, our people, our drivers who understand what it is the oil is doing and what you need.
Yeah, I think heck, you get an owner's manual for a piece of equipment, whether it's Case or Caterpillar or John Deere, not to mention a bunch of brands, but you get an owner's manual out and you look at the recommended oil, and it's that manufacturer's brand, and then you're wondering, okay, I wonder what is this? And then you look at what you have in your barn or in your storage cabinet, and you're like, okay, I've got this brand or this brand, but I've worked with CD before, and I'm like, okay, what's equivalent to a Cat, or a John, or recommended by whichever owner's manual I'm looking at, and he's always been so helpful with trying to, match that up with the lubricants that we have.
Yeah, and like I said, in almost all situations, we can find something for you that'll match up, and a lot of times with certain brands, you got warranty issues. If you don't use their recommended, then they won't cover. Mm-hmm. But those usually run out after amount of time. So I would just encourage you to maybe shop that, because there are none of those. I know all those that are out there, the ones, we're not going to name names, but we can meet them.
Yeah.
And save you a buck or two.
I get a little nervous whenever I have to change the oil in a side-by-side or a four-wheeler or whatever it might be, and I have to come home with oil that's in the same brand as the machine that I'm changing it in. Mm-hmm. I tend to think that's more of a branding thing than a protection thing. But
I'm fortunate enough that all my stuff is not, I don't have to worry about the manufacturer warranty. It's got enough age on it that when I drag it out of the fence row and change the battery, it's pretty good.
And it's always like clean oil because most of my stuff leaks. So,
yes.
I don't change the filter much. It never runs through it. So. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Talk a little bit about, before we move away from your lubricants, let's talk a little bit about how do you prove that? How do you prove that quality? And I know you have scan devices, scan tools, and we run, as Premier, several semis and heavy trucks of our own. And there is a substantial amount of cost. With the more miles you put on something, those service costs, and the longer protection you can get out of products, the better. How do you prove that to people? We have a lot of truck drivers, a lot of trucking companies, and other people that we sell to. How do you prove that?
Right. Good point. We have a company that we do business with in Indianapolis called Polaris Labs, and Polaris is one of the top lube analysis companies in the country. And now Country Mark has no stake in Polaris. They are just a third party, but we send all our lube scans there. So if you have a piece of equipment that's been giving you some issues and you just can't put your finger on what's going on, the nice thing about this is they can run a report. They'll do the analysis on the sample you sent in, and there are just a multitudes of things they can gather from that sample. I'm looking at one right now that we just came in. It's a pretty brand new engine. They're showing high potassium but they say, well, new engines may have protective coating that for bearings and heads, and that may be where the potassium's coming from. You may get something that says you've got antifreeze in the oil. That'll lead you to different metals. Bearings are showing up in the oil. So it'll lead you to different areas you can check to see what may be going on with your piece of equipment.
So it's kind of like in the ag division where we have soil samples or tissue samples.
Exactly.
You can take a oil sample and take it and send it to the lab and find out all this information.
Right. And it's amazing. It normally, within a week, we have a report back for you ready to go. And like I said, they're just a top-notch organization there. The other thing that I love about the report, there's a section that's called base number. Most oils are going to start around an 8, and that's when they're right out of the jug, okay? That's their
This is a
property.
viscosity rating, or
No, that's the overall properties. It's
Okay.
ready to go.
Okay.
It's an 8.
all right?
And these reports, after when you send them in, will show you where your base number is. So let's say you're working on every 200 hours, you change out your oil. And your base number comes back at a 6. That's still really high. Well, that gives you the information that, you know what, I might be able to go another 50 hours with my base number that high. So it gives you the opportunity to maybe extend out your intervals of your oil changes, and over time save you some money as well. So it's just really peace of mind knowing what that engine's doing and having an accurate report here to back it up.
That sounds like a pretty critical piece of information. I mean, we talk about the amount of oil that this machinery does use, and that would be a significant savings if you knew through that report the condition of the oil that was in the machine.
Correct.
That would give you a lot more confidence and where your position was with what you had in there.
And it's also a tool for us. We can go into a new customer and say, hey, our Country Mark's just as good or better than what you're using, but we can actually do a test. You know, we can take one of their trucks.
You can show it.
I can show it. They can run it, do the oil sample, and then I can give them this piece of paper that shows, look, you still can run. It's not just my word saying the oil is, but we actually have proof in the pudding here for it.
That's a pretty neat concept.
That is a pretty neat concept. So let me ask you a dumb question.
I love them.
Okay. Well, then you can answer this anyway, because obviously I don't know the answer to it. But if we talk about a 3,000-mile oil change interval or a 5,000-mile oil change interval, but yet the pickup truck or car that we're driving may have 4,000 or 5,000 miles on that oil change, and for some reason the car says you still have 60% oil life left. Is this verification of that? I mean, where is that vehicle getting that information, and what is that based on?
That is based on things over my pay grade. I'm assuming the car manufacturers have come up with some kind of formula that tells them that. That's a hard one to trust sometimes.
I would think so.
You know,
if you're testing at the intervals and you're finding that there is degradation in the oil, and you get to where it says, no, you've got twice this many more miles you can drive, you think, they maybe want to sell me a new car.
Right.
So,
I
don't know. just throwing it out there.
Good question.
Just throwing it out there.
Well, we get now at the time of the year, we're looking at at this point we're in the fall. We're in mid-November when we're doing this recording in 2021. And what's some of the contracting options? If you've got an equipment business, or if you're a municipality or a farmer, what's some of the contracting options that we have at Premier Companies? So
lately, the number one question I get is, what's the market going to do?
Yeah.
You know, and
it's either going to go up, go down, or stay the same, right?
Yeah. And that's pretty.
Well, are you in the energy department?
I'm in marketing.
Oh, very good.
We have several different ways you can go contracting. Our minimum is 1,000 gallons that you do have to contract for us to lock in a price for you. We can do it do it yearly, from January through December, or we can look at spring numbers or fall numbers, or hey, if you just have a big month coming up and you want to do just 1 month, we can do that as well. Right now we have a flex contracting program, and what this allows is, let's say you do 10,000 gallons a year. Well, you may not want to lock it all in because you just don't know what the market's going to do. You could come in at half and contract 5,000 gallons, and you can take those 5 gallons anytime during the contract. We don't specify that monthly you have to use so much. That way you might be able to take advantage of cash market being cheaper. The only thing is at the end of the contract, you would have to use up all your gallons, but it gives you some flexibility. If you're just not, like most of us, just not sure where the market's going, but you want some insurance, that's kind of a nice asset to have.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good way to minimize some exposure to market. And then also there's another side of that. We get to see here in the office, our offices, being on the second floor with, they have the agronomy on one side and the energy kind of on the other side. And I get to see how much work goes into forecasting on the energy side and how much effort to make sure we lock in price and supply. But the other side of that contract is supply, right? I mean,
right.
we know that whenever we have a contract with the customer, we know to make sure we have that supply covered.
Absolutely.
And so that's the other half of that. A lot of times we think about price, but a lot of times it's making sure that we have enough supply in the channel.
And the beautiful thing with Country Mark is we have that supply. We have our own refinery, our own pipelines, our own terminals. And if supply ever becomes an issue, the co-ops, the farmers, these guys that have helped build this co-op system over 100 years are going to be taken care of.
They own it.
Yep.
And I want to circle back just a little bit. We talked about the bulk delivery oil. We talked about delivering some oil and bulk delivery oil. That was one of the neat things I found out was how, if you have a well, don't want to set the 55-gallon drum or something in your shop or we have bulk delivery that comes right to the locations of your shops or your tool sheds or wherever you have it, and pumps out the quantity and takes care of it that way. How does a person buy this stuff? How do we do a contract, or how does a person contact us and I want some of this? How do I get it?
Just call in here to the office. Ryan, you got that phone number, right?
Yeah. 812-522-4911. Is that right?
It is, but I wonder if we should put that out there. Let's say they go to premierag.com.
Okay.
How about
cut it?
877 buy fuel.
I don't know. It's on all our business cards, but you're probably right.
Yeah. Okay.
So they can probably contact us.
Just go to the energy. Either go to our website or call into the office, ask for the energy department, and they will direct you to the right people.
You get a real person.
Real person. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's where we go. Call the number below, and that'd be your personal cell.
Yes.
Good? Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Believe me. Many of people have it, and I don't mind it. It's fine. But yeah, we do contracting daily. Obviously, with the market changes daily, so there's new prices daily. And if you just want us to keep you in a loop and say, hey, shoot me an email once a week, let me know where we're at. We're more than happy to do that as well.
One other question I've got is, if I've got a piece of equipment, I'm not sure if maybe I haven't used it for a long time, and it's winter's coming up. Is there a way I can check and see what the what do you call that? The cloud point or the? We can figure it out by probably your last delivery. Okay.
If your last delivery was in April and winter's coming, you may have an issue.
Sure.
You may not want to be cranking that up at -12. I know you like to get out on -12 and do some, but yeah.
That's no.
No, yeah. But if you have that situation, give us a call. We know there's different things we can do to help you out. When you're in that position, there is an additive that we can help you out with. So yeah, that's not an issue. Just give us a call and we'll work it through with you.
All right.
Before we close, Bill, pretty much all the new diesel engines that run every day, they're burning DEF along with diesel. You have a DEF a DEF service as well?
Absolutely. We just invested in a new DEF transport tank. We can carry 4,000 gallons at a time. We've got quite a territory these days, but we have a great young man, Josh, who's taking care of that. So if you want to look at bulk, please, there again, get in touch with us here at the office. Pricing in bulk is much better, obviously. Same with oil. We're looking at better prices, but we also work really hard to cover this whole area and make sure people don't run out. That's our part of it that we work hard to strive for, is the service is top notch, and you're not having to call us. We're just there. So,
and it's convenience. And those plastic jugs of DEF fluid, there's not much else you can do with those. Those go right in the landfill, or it's just a good convenience way to get the DEF fluid out to the farm, out to the commercial site, and get it in the vehicles.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's what I have. I think that's pretty well all I had.
Bill, that's all I have. Do you have anything else you want to tell us about before we go?
Well, if we want to circle back to winterization, I just had a few things on kind of maintenance to help you out, try to keep any issues from popping up.
Let me lead it. Yep. Bill, can you tell us a little bit about winterization and give me some advice on some things I can do to keep the backhoes and tractors and play toys running?
Yeah, there's things that we can do ourselves to help minimize any cold weather issues. Obviously, one thing I think we already talked about it, but your storage tank, you want to make sure that thing is turned early in the process in November, that winter fuel is getting into your equipment. And like I said, your PSR, your driver should be out there letting you know what you need to do and when you need to do it. If you have any questions, get in touch with him. We strongly recommend that you do not add any winter additives to our PDX4 winter blend. I think some people think, well, if I add a little more, I'm going to get even further down.
I'm going to go down to 50 below.
Yeah,
I'll be ready for.
And what we found is the chemistry doesn't like each other. They tend to it tends to break down rather than increase. So if you're being provided the PDX4 winter blend, that's all you need.
That's a great piece of information.
Yeah. And the other thing you want to do, especially if you are a company or whatever that's going to be running all through the winter, keep your tanks full at night. What you can have with a half-full tank, gets really cold at night, then it warms up, and condensation in your tank will start happening, and you'll get some water. And one of the other issues that we see during the winter is what we call icing. If you got water in your tank and you start it up, that water goes through the injector, hits the fuel filter, and forms ice on your filter. So you might think you're gelling, but actually what's happening is you got a water issue that you need to take care of. So simply just keeping your tank full at night will help cut that down.
Because the water issue is completely separate than the
correct
than the crystals or gelling.
Right. Not a fuel quality problem.
No. And a lot of people think that's what it is. They'll call, and it may be 2 degrees out, and they're saying, my fuel's gelling. Well, it's not going to gel at 2 degrees, so we know there's probably another issue going on. So anyway, just some tips to help.
Really good info.
Keep you.
Yep, that's good insight. All right, Bill, that's all I have.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you again. Okay. Hopefully every time you have something to alert our customers about, you'll want to sit back in with us and fill them in.
That concludes another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies.
Thanks.